Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I am your host, Rob Z. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. Today, I have the amazing Christian Fischer with us on the podcast. Christian, I'm jumping in right off the bat. You're all about disruption. You're all about disrupting industries, and when it comes to the hospitality industry specifically. So I just want to ask this from an expert like yourself, why does the hospitality industry need to be disrupted?
First off, Rob, I appreciate you having us on, and I love the format you have. So really, that's a really good question. So in my opinion, why it needs disrupted. So if look what COVID did to the hospitality industry, it exposed on how fragile the industry actually is, how many people struggled, how many people lost their positions. And hospitality has never rebounded 100% from what dining was before COVID and post-COVID. And what I learned through this process or during COVID is that chefs need to have their thinking disrupted, not just chefs, hospitality professionals. We need to help them to think differently and disrupt because they think they only know or they can only do hospitality. But what we have learned is there's so many transferable skills they have and they can do something amazing, right? And also what we learned in our research is that most chefs are a skill, a network, a tool, a strategy, a way to have a total different life and a total different career and a total different impact in the community. That's why the hospitality industry needs to be disrupted.
Amazing. Okay. So I love the fact that you've taken your career, what you've done your entire life, you flipped it upside down. You built an entrepreneurial business for yourself and broke the mold. And now you're helping other people do that. That's what this platform is all about, making your message, the thing that you were struggling with, you find a breakthrough and you create something brand new that serves other people with it. That's what this podcast is all about, the Unstuck movement. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Make sure you check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Over 400 incredible heart-centered entrepreneurs from all over the world waiting to connect with you. So Christian Fischer, known as the Disruptive Chef, is a visionary entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in the hospitality industry. He focuses on innovation and helping others grow through education, collaboration, and strategic disruption. So, Christian, how are you personally making that disruption happen? What have you decided to do?
So my story is a long story. I'll try to make it really short for you. So for us, COVID happened. I have a good friend of mine who was in business for himself like I was for 32 years. He was on the West Coast. I'm based on the East Coast. And for us, I said, hey, what do we do to help our fellow chefs? We created, at the time, we called the Culinary Executive Mastermind. It was this great idea, which was really simple. We were going on Zoom. We had Tuesday East Coast, Thursday West Coast, and we just sat on Zoom for 5-6 hours a day. And we waited for people to call in. And people called in, hey, I just had to shut down my restaurant. I don't know what to do. Hey, if I'm you, do this, do this. Oh, hold on. I know this guy. You need to connect with this guy. And we became a sounding board for people to voice their frustration and ask for some support. And during this process, success leaves clues. We were like, hey, we found that the people calling in fall really into 4 buckets. And how can we support each of those buckets? And then we started to create tools around it and we gave them away for free. We still give them away for free. And we said, hey, they really struggle with this. What do we know about it? And one of our focuses that we don't want to share anything we don't know about. So if I'm telling you, hey, this is what I would do with your restaurant, it's because I did it. I owned my own restaurants. I failed at it. I succeeded at it. And we have restaurants today. So for me, it comes out of what we experienced, not what we have learned or read about. So we was like honest feedback. And we created all these tools. And, it was a very short period of time. We had 9 tools of this. And then we said, hey, if you can help a chef, you know what? The principles are the same. It doesn't make a difference if you sell shoes, toilet seats, or make food. The principles are the same. So how about we open it up to everybody? And in a very short period of time, what was our Culinary Executive Mastermind, where we wanted to focus on chefs and hospitality professional, had more than 60% non-culinary people. And that's what we do. So we still have that that mastermind. We actually just rebranded it to the Business Disruptive Mastermind because we have less chefs in there, and we're still doing that same format we started 5 years ago.
I love that. I really love that. And what you said, the principles are the same. So when you follow patterns and look for patterns, you're going to notice that the same things that work for one industry are going to work for another, in the sense that there's fundamentals that
Yeah.
apply to everything. What are some of those principles that were the same across industries?
The first one we noticed was to what I believe. If I believe, and I think he was Albert Einstein who said, if you think you can do it, you're right, and if you think you can't do it, you're right. So it's that whole idea. So for us, the first thing was we needed to change the mindset, and the mindset was, hey, look at all the things you have done already. You wouldn't have 5 restaurants if you suck. Pardon the use, be blunt here.
Yeah.
And it was the number one thing. It says, hey, let's give you, we had this rule, no bullshit, no ego, no lie. And we went through this. I said, first of all, don't BS us, be honest where you're at. And honest as he says, I'm afraid to let my family down. I'm afraid that I can't feed my family. That was the number one thing. The second thing is, he says, hey, no ego. So what's holding you back from making the pivot? And he says, well, people will think of me.
Mm.
And I'm sure you hear this all the time. It doesn't matter. I learned a very long time ago, what people think of me is none of my business. And then the final thing was, we had the no bullshit, no ego. And then no lie. Don't lie to yourself. What do you need today to have an impact tomorrow? And that was our 3-step thing. And it kind of took off. And we had somebody who had a landscaping business called in. And we were like, I don't know anything about landscaping. My partner, we were like, but he says, hey, I have this landscaping business. I'm so frustrated. I'm stuck. I don't know where to start because I don't want my family. And I was like, did he just say that? It was like the same principles. And that was the first one. And the second one for us was self-leadership. And self-leadership is, it doesn't matter what do you do today? If I can get to lead myself, if I can get myself out at 7 a.m. to work out, if I can get myself to get up here to come to the office, if I can get myself to make that extra call, send that extra email, spend that extra thing, it doesn't matter what I do. So we found those were the clues, and that's what we started to teach. And then we started a nonprofit. It's called the Culinary Leadership Academy, where we teach leadership skills to chefs and people coming into the industry. So if you ask me, Rob, I can tell you all along, because we were like, he has the same problem as a chef. Oh, he was like, you kind of, you see patterns. And during the time, and we always laughed, because at one point at the height of this, we were on for 9.5 hours straight. And we were like, hey, I need to use the bathroom, because people just kept calling in. And we had from people starting a Wagyu business. I was like, I don't know anything about Wagyu. I know how to cook it. I don't know how to do it. And it kind of became this support group. But Rob, you said it in the beginning. If you listen to people long enough, you see patterns. And for me, we are really good in recognize patterns.
That's amazing. I love that you guys did this. And so I want to just kind of focus in on for a second the fact that you guys sat on Zoom for hours on end, and anybody who could jump on and get help.
Yeah.
So just that part alone, okay, you and your friend, we're going to get on Zoom, we're going to sit here, we're going to wait for people to show up, and we're going to serve them. Because I've never heard of anybody doing something quite like that. Why did you decide to do that? Why? I guess maybe not why, but it's a bold idea, and it seems some people would say, what a giant waste of time, right? So how did you make it a useful part of time and get people to engage? And what was the vision there?
Yeah. So for us, first off, we felt the same way. At first, we were on. We said, hey, we do 3 to 6. We said we do 3 hours, and then my kids even. My partner's name, who since passed away, an amazing human being, but his name was Joe. And my kids, when they came and said goodnight, they said, hey, Uncle Joe. My kids never met him in person. He was like, because he was part of the family. He was always in the background 7 days a week. But then we started out, and then we got an email. Oh, I tried to call in. You guys weren't there. I said, okay, we need to expand our hours. And then eventually we were literally on all day long. I got up in the morning and turned it on, and when I heard somebody speak, I ran over to the thing. And so for us, we were like, I'm also a big believer is when people are really hurting, they telling you what they really need. And for me, I created tools around that, and that's what we use today. Somebody who said, "Hey, I can't do this because I have a hard time saying no." We were like, "No, it's actually fairly easy, you know." But we were like, "Hey, the power of saying no." So all of this kind of came kind of together, and for me, we use that almost as a real life research center. And we say this on our website, you know, this office is, you know, it's not just a test kitchen, it's a research group. And therefore our name, the company actually, which we own, is called the Fischer Research Group, is because I'm always very fascinated what makes people do what they do. And having people coming on and said, "Hey, I don't know how to pay my employees this week. I don't know what to do." And, you know, it kind of changes. And for us, that's where we made that decision. We're not going to tell them anything we heard of, only what we know and what we would do. And we never really gave anybody advice. And we were just, "Hey, if I'm in this position, I think this is how I would handle it." And it became our success. But at one point, my wife said we were on 82 hours, was the most we had a week. We were online for 82 hours. We did this for 3 years, 7 days a week.
That's incredible. Were you charging for people to come on, or was it free?
No, it was all for free. And then as we started the group, we said, "Hey, we're doing the group." And what we realized, when people don't pay, they don't pay attention. So we started charging $99 for the people, which was serious. And then we said, "Okay, how about we charge $297?" And so that's how we have now this separate group. So then we were like, "Oh, we chefs." So we call them by vegetables, you know. The orange group was the free group. You know, the apple group, because green, we like, you know, they paying for it. That was the pay group. So we had the free group, we had the pay group. So now we had to schedule of that. It became a whole thing, and it was so much fun because what we have learned through that is it would have taken us 10 years, 15 years to learn it on our own. But having people coming in, and as I said it earlier, when people are really hurting and they need real help, they cut through the bullshit. And, you know, our system, you know, no bullshit, no, you're going to lie, worked. And it became our motto of the things we do today.
Amazing. Amazing. Going back to those principles, right? No BS, all about mindset, being honest, no egos, no lying, personal leadership. Where were you struggling the most? So which one of those for you was a very difficult stuck point in your life, your
So
business?
for me, what I learned about myself through this was my thing was Joe for the longest time said, "Christian, you need to do videos." So Joe was 10 years older than I. Joe was amazing on the phone. And as he passed and we did the funeral, there must have been 150 people said, "I just spoke to him a day ago. I just heard from him 2 days ago." How many people he called he was on the phone all the time. He was a genius at that. And for me, what I've learned, I need to get out of my own way. My ego is, you know what? I still don't like what I look like online. I still don't like the way I sound, but none of it, for me, doesn't matter anymore because I want people to hear the message. And the message comes from a sincere place because I came from a country where I didn't speak English as I came to the US. We built all of this, you know, starting from nothing. And for me also, you know, my personal story, I have adopted children. And for me, when I peel it all back, my life was always standing up for the underdog. You know, my kids had no choice. They were abandoned. They had no choice. They moved from orphanage to orphanage. And because they all special needs, they had no choice that nobody wanted to adopt them because they didn't want to put up with the special need they had. They had no choice that somebody comes looking different, sounding different, smelling different, and bring it to a whole different country. And for me, that became my thing. And I want my kids to have choices because they never had a choice. I want the people coming into the disruptive chef world to have choices. I want the people I meet with to know that they have choices. And for me, that became my message then, to make people realize that they have choices.
Yeah, that we all have an option. I love that. I used to work in radio broadcasting for 20 years, and that's one of the things that I heard so many times is I was pivoting out of, because I spent about a year and a half, 2 years making the transition out just so I was prepared. And along that journey, I'd talk to other people about it. And then afterwards, I'd talk to people about it, people I used to work with and things like that. And that's the thing I would hear the most is like, well, what else am I going to do? I'm just a radio DJ. I don't have any other
Mhm.
skill. I have no other things that I'm good at. And I would just kind of shake my head and I'd try to help as much as I could. But if people can't hear it, they just can't hear it. If you feel like that is just a part of the journey, is you can help. You can be pulling people up all day long. It doesn't mean everybody's going to come along with you, but helping them to find that thing. When you were doing this online and you were talking to different industries and business owners all day long, what was it that you guys? How were you showing up for them? 'Cause I think this is really important for us to know how to show up for people. How are you showing up for them that was really helping them find their breakthroughs?
Um, I think we, as a society, very overconnected yet underrelated. And for us, the way we showed up, we wanted to be just a sounding board. Tell us how you really feel. No judgment, because I have no horse in the race here, you know. And for us, the way we showed up is to be, be just here for them and let them hear them out, because I think that's so missing. And also, what I found through this process is that people want to be around people which are like them. And for us, we created that community because it was a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had people calling in from all over the world. We had this young lady call in from Singapore, and she says, I don't know what to do. My parents were the first culinary school in Singapore. My parents own the oldest heritage cookie and candy company in the world, and they want me to take it over. I don't want it. I don't like that side of the business. And we were like, um, that was me. My parents owned a hotel for 68 years. I have 5 brothers, 5 sisters. I'm the only one left in the food industry. My parents sent me to school because they wanted me to take over the hotel. I was like, I see how they struggled. I don't want to take over the hotel. So for me, I said to her, listen, let me tell you a story. There's this guy from Austria. His parents owned the hotel. They told him, you need to go to school. I wanted to be a medical doctor. Okay. They made me to go to culinary school because I needed to take over the hotel. And my dad didn't let me work in the hotel. He says, you need to prove yourself. I was 19 years old. I opened up my first restaurant, at 19. And
Wow.
I said, for me, I struggled through that, and for me, sharing my story, that was the first time I publicly on Zoom. There was 6 or 8 other people on it. I shared. It was hard for me because I felt like I let my parents down. I let so many people down because I didn't want to have that hotel. And she started crying and she said, Christian, that's me. I feel I let not just my parents down, I let my country down because I'm the oldest heritage cookie company.
Hmm.
And we were able to help her pivot. And today, by the way, she runs the business today. And she is
The
very
cookie
successful.
company?
Yeah.
Okay.
She took
She
over the
stayed in.
company. She stayed in. And so she said, okay, I will stick it out only if you guys allow me to be part of this group. And, I still get texts from her now 4 years later. But for me, it was also what I learned about, sometimes I need to be sharing my struggles, and it wasn't all roses. For me, I came to the US because I wanted to escape, and I didn't like it here. And I didn't want to look like a wimp going back home because I told everybody I got an American, and so I was like, I gotta suck it up because people thinking so, and I stayed here because I didn't like it. It was hard for me to learn the language. And, I kind of struggled through it. And for me, if I can share some of that, people learn for that. And I also learned when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it could
Mm.
be as simple as a guy from Austria with a hometown of 27, where 11 of them were, my family, to tell the story how I struggled for it, not taking my parents' hotel. My dad didn't talk to me for 18 years because he was so mad. He didn't go to the
Wow.
hotel. And every time I went back home on vacation, he avoided me.
Wow.
And it was hard. I mean, and for
Wow.
me, that's reality because, and end of the day, we still not on, friendly terms because he will never forgive me for that. But the last time we were back home, I shared with him. I said, listen, I love the industry. what I didn't like is how you got, because we had a tourist hotel. We opened up the last week in August and we closed the last week in May. So June, July, we had no money coming in, 400 employees, a big place. I could see the struggle. My dad struggled. I didn't even ask him for anything because I knew what I gonna get. I mean, doing this was a lot of pressure. And I said, I didn't like that. And the reason I didn't want to do it because I seen how hard it was on you. And I just didn't want to take that on. Yeah. And he said, you should have said this 20 years ago, but for me, and I think what I love about your platform, and for me, I by the way, everybody I see, I talk about, your platform, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in, the people you have on and what you share with your story, is cross industry. And I love all of this because I think there needs to be more of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. And I'm sorry, I apologize that I laughed when you said your dad hadn't talked to you in 18 years. I didn't laugh. It's kind of like shocking when you hear something like that, because, oh man, that's how we get trapped in things that we don't want to do. And I think this is important just to touch on. How do you let somebody be upset with you like that and still move forward? Because some people, that's like one of the biggest sticking points there is, when your family doesn't approve of what you're doing.
Yeah.
How did you handle that? How'd you deal with that?
I was looked, I like why do people what they do? My family, my dad is a civil engineer by trade, and the hotel was really a hobby. It was really my mom's thing. And he always struggled because he had a brother, and his brother became the Austrian president for 12 years. He had 2 terms. Wow. And my dad was always the underdog at home. He always had to kind of prove himself because his brother just outshined him. And I realized his thing came from not that he didn't believe in me. He wanted our family to have legacy so he can go back and say, hey, look what my family did. And I think was his struggle. So for me, I tried not to take it personally. It was hard for me for the first few years, but doing work on myself, because I realized in order for my things to get better, I needed to get better. And if I can just learn how to deal with this, maybe I can teach somebody else to do that. And for me, the hardest thing was not having that connection, because I still respect them. I always make this joke today. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I thought he was out of his mind. Now I quote him, because he is a very smart man, my dad, and he built an amazing business and he did it all on his own. So I think his thing was he didn't want to let us down. And I always felt that in giving me the hotel, he wanted to give his legacy to me. And so I don't need to start from zero the way he did. And realizing that, changed everything.
Incredible. There you go. Getting that new perspective on it changes everything. That's what we all need, is that fresh revelation. So we have to jump into a 60-second commercial real quick to shout out to the sponsor of the podcast. When we come back, though, I want to talk a little bit about failure and how it turned into success. So I want you to think about this. Share a failure for you that, looking back, turned out to be a pivotal moment in turning things around, launching your entrepreneurial journey and things of that nature. What is that failure, and how did it actually play out to be an amazing thing in your life?
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So I'm of the belief if you look at failures as experiments, there are no failures, right? So experimenting through life. But I'm going to use the word failure just for this part of the story. Christian, what is that failure that you experienced that was a pivotal turning moment?
So my failure. So my story is I was the chief culinary officer for a company, a $6 billion company at the time. I was in charge of 45,000 people. And where I see my failure was that I relied too much on my job. Great job, multiple six-figure salary. I have double my salary as a bonus. I get an $85,000 company car every year. So really great job. COVID happened. And I always had side hustles. We are on gas stations, laundromats, magazine franchises. We always had stuff on the side. But COVID happened, and we in a meeting, and the global CEO comes on and tells the story. Hey, we just made $700 million profit. We dodged a bullet. We leaving the boardroom, and my at the time direct CEO says to me, Christian, what a great opportunity. Everybody who works for you and hire back for half of the cost because now you get cheap talent. I was like, it's the funniest thing I ever heard. And he says, no, I'm serious. I went back in my office and I said, this is not who I am. And I resigned and walked out the door. On my drive home, I called my wife and said, hey, listen, I just resigned. I walked out the door. And so I don't want to look at it as a failure, but for me, it was because I felt like I let my family down because I walked away from this. Because she left. And on there, he said, I want to go all in and build something for myself. And we have all these things on the side. I know I can take 1, 2, or 3 of them and build them. And it was a struggle for the first 3 months, maybe 6 months. And we did all of these things, but nothing seemed to stick. And then COVID really hit. And for me, I think when I look back, what my pivoting point was that stupid 6 hours on Zoom. Sitting there and listening to people and saying, 40% of them today said, hey, if I would know what to do. Then I said, and then I says out of the 40%, there was 50% that said, I want to get clear of what I want to do. I probably could help with that. So for me, we laugh about it that I spent so much time on Zoom, but it became the platform what we do today. And for me, where the failure comes into success, I make 5 times the money I used to make. I work more than I ever have because that, owning your own business, you want to walk away from a 40-hour job just to get into an 80-hour job. But it's a different, if it's a different, it's a different kind of stress. We have a team of 6 people which work out of the office here now. We have a global team of almost 170 people. If you would have told me this driving home, telling my wife, hey, I just walked away from a $500,000 job, which was not an easy conversation, by the way, especially knowing that COVID is coming and having special needs kit, having no insurance, how, I think should I probably give it a little bit more thought, but I look back, you heard the saying, if you want to conquer the island, you need to burn the boats. I think I burned the boats before I even left the island. So, but for me, it became, there was no option. Failure was not an option. And we started something. It didn't really work. I said, how can we make it better? Okay. How can we make that better? Okay. How can we improve this process? How can we provide more value into the marketplace? And that for me started everything. So for me, if I get it back to 2 things was, number 1, I had a really amazing mentor who's still my business mentor today. Because I called him after I called my wife, and he said to me, okay, Christian, really good. Okay. I give you 5 minutes to pitch. Okay, go. I was like, I was so caught off guard, He said, okay, 5 minutes up. So, okay, I want you to take 15 minutes on your drive and call me back in 15 minutes with a solution. Boom, he hangs up on me. I was like, oh shit, he's holding me to account. What am I going to do? And then I called him back 15 minutes later. I said, I'm so frustrated. I'm so overwhelmed. He says, okay, where are you? Oh, come to my house. And then at the time he didn't live far from there. And he says, I'm 20 minutes from the exit, but I want you to have a solution. And then as we talked about it, he's today my business partner. So I think we all need somebody who holds us to account, because we will do more than we do for others than we do for ourselves. and you need to get the right mentor. That was for me the two things which changed everything.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The mentorship is everything. Surrounding yourself with the right people and putting yourself, and I've always, for myself at least, I have to be, it has to be somebody in my life that I'm intimidated by in a good way, that I don't want to let down. And I think
Hmm.
that's the great marker of a great father figure, just like God, right? He's our father because it's like you fear him, but which makes you want to obey him because you love him and you know he loves you, right? And he wants to help. He wants to help you grow, but he's not going to take it easy on you. He's going to push you and challenge you. And that's what we
Hmm.
need. We need to be challenged. We need to be pushed. We need to feel uncomfortable. And I don't know. I was just thinking about this the other day. It's like we avoid in modern society. I did for many years. I would avoid people that made me feel less than because I viewed them as more than, right.
Hmm.
When you find the right people that are successful, they really want to help, they want to
Yeah.
pour out on people, but they also make you feel like just being around them, I need to level up. I need to step my game up. When you put yourself in those circles over and over and over again, you grow just as a result of being around those people. So as far as the mentor goes, coaches, men's groups, any like mastermind groups, anything like that, where you can get around guys or people, I shouldn't say just guys, but people that are going to challenge you. That is
Hmm.
where the sweet sauce to growth is. And also you said about Zoom, showing up for people, right? You were on Zoom for hours just showing up for people. And I think this is the servant leadership part of things that so many people miss because they feel like it's a waste of time. But when you're just showing up for people, spending time with them, helping them and serving them without looking for anything back from it. And
Hmm.
honestly, having that intention, like that's your intention, like, okay, I'm just going to do this because I know it's what I should be doing. You can't
Yeah.
even put a dollar amount on what comes from that. You can't even quantify the breakthroughs you're going to have because of that.
Absolutely love that. You're absolutely right. I love that.
You mentioned one of your core values is integrity. So, what does integrity mean to you? How have you held it so high in your business and your life?
Hey, it's been always a struggle. So number one is that sign behind you, because I know there's somebody at a higher level than I, and for me that became my guiding light. And for me, um, I learned really long time ago. Now quoting my dad. My dad used to say, "Make sure you guard your reputation with your life, because it will take you all your life to build a good reputation. It takes one stupid mistake to ruin it."
Yeah.
And that scared the crap out of me. So that was one of them. And for me, the second one was I wanted my kids um, to come and say, "This guy, when he said something, he comes to my soccer game. He's coming to the soccer game. If he tells me he's going to be at 7:30, he's there at 7:30." And for me, it became that whole life of integrity in a way, with even with my team here. My team knows what I do in my business more than my wife does, because I want them to know as much as they can to support me in what we do. And for me, I want to show up for myself, because if you're out of integrity, you can't perform at 100%. And if you're out of integrity, you don't live your higher self. And through this, we support 178 churches, and we manage six on a weekly basis. And it became for me my anchor, that, you know what, there's something outside of us. There's a guy, or there's somebody who knows what we do before we do it. There's somebody out there for us who is looking out for us. And if I look it all back, COVID didn't happen to me; it happened for me. And if you, whatever you call it in divine intervention, the way things fall in place, I call it lucky. Therefore, my hat, living lucky, became my slogan, because I always say it's lucky, but if I really peel it back, there might be somebody who is looking out for me, and that's how we live our life.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as masterminds go, right? So you have the business disruptors mastermind. People may have heard the term mastermind before. They might be like, well, because I come from an area of the country that's a little bit behind the times. So you say words like this and they're like, I don't even know what does that even mean? It sounds like a cult or something like that. How has masterminding changed your life? So I think that's another topic that's
so it's
really,
really
really
good.
important.
Great question. I didn't know what it was. My business mentor at the time, he says, you need to come to my mastermind. I was like, do I need to wear a black hood? How is it? And I got a tap and he says, no, you're out of your mind. So we get there. There's this group of high achievers. And, my business mentor is the former global CEO of Cadbury Schweppes, a big player. And so he brings me to this group and they all, high-fiving each other. No competition. I mean, that was for me number one. And I was like, ooh, I know this guy. I know this guy runs a $5 billion company. Ooh, I heard of this guy. Ooh, I read this guy's book. It was one of those. And they were like, hey, I'm working on this. I need to do this merger. What do you collectively think? Should I do this merger? I was like, why is he asking them? For me. So a mastermind is a group where people come together with one common goal is to make everybody better. And a mastermind is also a tool or a strategy for people to get honest feedback. How often do you crave honest feedback and you never get it? So they were in there. And so the way they provided feedback was, are you sure why you're doing this? Hey, you still have this out there in the marketplace. This is not going to go with who you are as a person, who you represent your company to be. And I was like, he just told him to not do a $5 billion merger, It was like the way they played was amazing. And you know what? The other humble thing for me was, and the guy said, thanks for being honest with me, because my ego said yes, my heart said no. And you just confirmed that. I was so humbled leaving that meeting. When I talk about it, I still get goosebumps because there's this high players and they were honest and they were hard with each other. And there was obviously a bond and they kind of knew each other. And so for me, as I left there, I says, this is amazing. What is a mastermind? And my guy, he said to me, it's really simple. When people come together with one common goal, they create a separate mind, which is the mind of them combined. And he says, have you ever read about King Arthur, the round table? I said, yeah. He says, that was a mastermind. Everybody came to the table equal. Everybody supported. Everybody was honest. And we walked away with one goal. And he says, Christian, that's a mastermind. I was like, I need you to get me one of those. And 2 weeks later, we had our culinary executive mastermind. That was actually my partner's name. And now I belong to 3 masterminds. And 2 of my current business partners came out of a mastermind. So if your listeners are not part of a mastermind, they need to join. If they want to join ours, let me know, because when they come from you, we give them a discount. But if they want to grow their business, their career, you need to be part of a mastermind. If you don't join ours, you need to join a mastermind. You need to get a group together which has your best interest in mind. And there's nothing better than a mastermind. We help each other. You can learn anything yourself. There's this famous, cool thing called Google. I can learn how to podcast. I belong to a mastermind, and if you guys haven't met him, you should check him out. His name is Sean Walchef. He has Kali Barbecue Media, and he said, Christian, this is how you do a podcast. And you know what? If you're serious, you do one on Monday. And we had this conversation on a Thursday night. Friday, I was like, if I get good advice, I act on it. On Monday, we had our first episode. And then he said, Christian, when you get 100 episodes, I come on. I promote it across all channels. And it's not easy to doing 100 podcasts. He was on our 100 podcast. So that's for me a mastermind. It's a fancy name for a group of individuals which are invested in each other's success more than what's going on outside. And also what I learned, and I'm sure, Rob, you see this in your life, the more quote unquote successful you become, the smaller your friends group gets. So it's really cool to be part of a group where I can be honest with. I said, hey, I struggle with this because I can't get this done. And because hold on, I did this. Hey, what I would do is because I did this. Have you considered that? Oh, I didn't that. So having that group, for me, I think is the key to the success. And for me, I invest every year, and we put aside, I call it, buying my time back. So I use it as an investment, because if I can learn something in a 3 weeks conversation versus learning it on my trial and error, I will pay for it anyway. So I give somebody the money. And I also realize the more I pay for my mastermind, the more attention I pay. And so for me, I think anybody should be part of a mastermind. If you're serious about growing your career, your business, there's nothing better than belonging to a mastermind.
Yeah, absolutely. You couldn't say it better, because it is that it's like we always, in our culture now, the word safe space comes up all the time, right?
Yeah.
A mastermind is like that safe space of like being fully honest. No, people are going to be, you can trust the people in there. They have your best interest in mind, and they're there to help and serve and help each other grow. It's incredible. So thank you for sharing that. I want to thank you just for coming on today. If you want to know more about Christian, you can go to christianjfischer.com. If you're listening and not watching, that's Fischer, Fischer, christianjfischer.com. Check out the website. If you want to connect with me, if you want to be the authority in your space, in what you do, and you want to launch your platform and take yourself and your business and your career and your life to the next level, check out robzwentz.com. And anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off today, Christian?
Yes, let me give you the advice I got from my business mentor. And for me, that is work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and you will get to where you need to go.
That's good. Work harder on yourself than you do at your job, because you can only grow, your business can only grow as much as you can grow. That is the truth. I love that, man. Amazing stuff. This has been another true testimony of breakthrough. This has been the Unstuck movement.